Fire, metal, and transformation. That's the world of welding. But behind the beautiful chaos of molten metal, there's something else at play. Something unseen, but ever present. Today we're talking about iron oxide, the silent byproduct of our craft. And make no mistake, it's more than just a little dust floating in the air. This is a story of chemistry, biology, and your own survival. So grab your hood and let's dive in. Let's start with the basics. Iron oxide is what happens when iron meets oxygen. Rust? That's iron oxide. The black scale that forms on hot steel? Also iron oxide. That plume of fumes when you strike an arc? You guessed it, iron oxide in its airborne form, mixed with other metals depending on what you're welding. This stuff is everywhere, but in welding, we're not just looking at rust. We're talking about ultrafine particles, nanoparticles in fact, created by extreme heat and oxidation. And these tiny invaders, they don't just disappear. How does this impact your lungs? They're not designed to filter out these microscopic hitchhikers. The smaller the particle, the deeper it goes. And iron oxide fumes have a front row seat straight to your bloodstream. What about short-term exposure? That's where you get the classic metal fume fever, flu-like symptoms, chills, nausea, tight chest. Maybe you think it's just a bad day or that last night's dinner didn't sit right. But what could potentially be happening is your body is waging war on a foreign invader. Your immune system sounds the alarm, trying to clear out what shouldn't be there. Here's the problem. The more you breathe in, the more your body struggles to keep up. Over time, those particles settle in deep, causing chronic lung damage. We're talking fibrosis, reduced lung function, and a long-term ticket to breathing problems. Ever met an old welder who gets winded just walking across the shop? That's no coincidence. And here's where it gets serious. Studies have linked long-term iron oxide exposure to lung diseases and even increased risks of certain cancers. The risks go beyond just a scratchy throat or a bad cough. We're talking about a life-altering impact on your health. But here's the good news. You have the power to protect yourself. It starts with awareness and it continues with action. So step one, ventilation. Work in a well-ventilated area. If your shop isn't set up for proper airflow, it's time to start that conversation. Field operations. The risks don't just stop because you're outside. Natural airflow helps, but it might not be enough. Portable ventilation systems and exhaust fans could mean the difference between clean air and dangerous exposure. Step two, respiratory protection if needed. Not all masks are created equal. A simple dust mask won't cut it. You'd need a respirator rated for metal fumes, at least an N95, but ideally a P100 for maximum filtration. Field welders, this goes double for you. Open air work could be safer, but if it is over the PEL and without proper respirator protection, those fumes can still hit hard. So you need to make sure that you have data to show that you do not need those controls in place. Step three, keep your workspace clean. That means wiping down surfaces, vacuuming with HEPA filters, not just blowing dust around with compressed air. The less buildup, the less you breathe in. And let's not forget, OSHA sets strict exposure limits for iron oxide fumes. 10 milligrams per cubic meter of total particulates and 5 milligrams per cubic meter for the respirable fraction over an 8-hour shift. That's not much, and without proper controls, it's easy to exceed that limit if left uncontrolled. OSHA also requires employers to provide training, engineered controls, and proper PPE to keep you safe, and that is why you're in this training right now, and that's why we're covering it. Now listen, welding is an art, it's a science, a skill that builds the world we live in, but you can't build your best work if you're breaking down your body in the process. So here's the challenge. Take control of your exposure, make the choice to protect your lungs, your health, your future. Listen to your choices today because they matter to your teammates, to your loved ones, to you. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.